Why would a 16-year-old girl poison her own father? This is not a question born from fiction or ancient tragedies. It's a reality rooted in a case so startling that it still reverberates decades later. In 1993, Steven Robards, a seemingly ordinary man in Fort Worth, Texas, fell violently ill and passed away after what appeared to be a sudden heart attack. His death left those who knew him reeling, but no one suspected anything sinister. To all, it was a tragic but natural end. Yet, the truth was far from natural. Behind this facade of tragedy was a secret, a treachery so profound it turned the concept of family loyalty on its head. Steven's own daughter, Marie Robards, a bright and gifted high school student, had meticulously planned and executed her father's murder using poison. This wasn't an act of sudden rage or impulsivity. It was deliberate, calculated, and hauntingly quiet. What could compel a young girl, barely 16 years old, to end the life of her father? This question, wrapped in layers of mystery and moral conflict, became the heart of a story that captured national attention. Marie's outward appearance of innocence masked a darkness that few could comprehend. Welcome to True Crime Daily Stories. Thank you to all our subscribers for your amazing support. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now to stay updated on more gripping true crime stories. Let's continue. Steven Robards was born and raised in Texas, spending most of his life in the Fort Worth area. Known for his charm, tall stature, and athletic build, Steven was one of the most admired boys during his high school years. At 6 feet 4 inches tall, with dark curly hair and a lean physique, he was a standout among his peers. His magnetic personality made him popular, but it was his relationship with Beth Lomer, a high-achieving classmate, that stood out most. Beth was a star in her own right, president of the National Honor Society and an exceptional athlete who excelled in volleyball, basketball, and track. Their romance began during their teenage years and grew into what seemed to be the perfect love story. In 1974, fresh out of high school, Beth married Steven shortly after he enlisted in the Navy. Their whirlwind romance continued as they embarked on a new life together, moving to various Navy bases across the country. 2 years into their marriage, they welcomed their only child, Dorothy Marie Robards, in 1976. Steven's Navy career provided structure, but it also exposed cracks in their relationship. Beth began noticing Steven's struggles with mood swings and bouts of depression. While he could be charming and attentive, he often became withdrawn and prone to temperamental outbursts. His difficulty holding a steady job after leaving the Navy only exacerbated the tension between them. By 1980, their marriage was on the rocks. Beth, who described herself as a naive Catholic girl swept up in a teenage romance, found herself disillusioned with the reality of their life together. She had grown close to Frank Burroughs, a former Navy officer and family friend, during Steven's deployments. While their relationship was platonic at first, Beth eventually saw Frank as a source of stability and support, contrasting sharply with Steven's erratic behavior. When Beth decided to separate from Steven in 1980, she took 4-year-old Marie with her and remarried Frank Burroughs the following year. This marked the beginning of a complicated family dynamic. Beth's remarriage and move to Granbury, Texas, created a physical and emotional distance between Marie and Steven. Despite their separation, Steven made efforts to maintain a relationship with his daughter. He took pride in spending time with her during monthly visits, often treating her to outings and activities to make their time together special. However, his financial struggles and modest living conditions limited his ability to provide Marie with the same level of comfort she experienced at her mother's home. Beth's choice to stay with Frank despite his infidelity later became a source of resentment for Marie, who saw her mother's loyalty to her stepfather as a betrayal. When Marie moved in with Steven as a teenager following disputes at home, Steven welcomed her with open arms, eager to rebuild their bond. Steven's life had taken a turn for the better by then. He had a stable job with the U.S. Postal Service and had largely overcome his bouts of depression with medication. He was also beginning a new relationship with a woman named Sandra Hudgens, and the prospect of reconnecting with Marie gave him renewed hope. This new role of single parent challenged him, but he was determined to provide Marie with a stable environment. He often sacrificed his personal life to ensure she was cared for. Despite his best efforts, their relationship wasn't without its challenges. Steven was unaware of the deep emotional void his daughter felt living away from her mother. He believed he was doing the right thing, but the invisible strain between them grew over time and shattered their family. Friends noted that he genuinely loved his daughter, often boasting about her intelligence and accomplishments, which made what happened next even harder to comprehend. He was known as a hard-working and dependable man. His friends and colleagues described him as trustworthy and family-oriented, someone who valued the simpler joys of life. Dorothy Marie Robards was the kind of student every teacher would praise. She excelled academically, displaying a sharp mind and a knack for solving problems. Her classmates saw her as intelligent and reserved, often keeping to herself but never failing to impress. Beneath this exterior, Marie was a teenager grappling with deep emotional struggles. The divorce of her parents had a significant impact on her sense of stability and belonging. Marie lived with her father, but her heart seemed to be with her mother, who lived in another city. This yearning for maternal connection created a rift in her life that she rarely expressed aloud. She saw living with her father as an obstacle to that dream. These emotions festered over time, and as they grew, they began to influence her decisions in ways no one around her could have predicted. Her decision to poison her father was the result of careful, calculated planning. While many teenagers experience turbulent emotions, few allow their frustrations to lead to such dark actions. Her academic success provided her with access to resources that others might not consider. During her chemistry classes, she learned about toxic substances, including barium acetate, a deadly compound stored in her school's lab. This knowledge planted the seed for a plan that seemed, in her mind, to be the perfect solution. She would eliminate her father without leaving any evidence of wrongdoing. Stealing barium acetate required careful execution. She took the substance without raising suspicion, concealing it among her belongings. The poison was not commonly associated with household use, making it unlikely to be detected. Marie acted with chilling precision, her outward composure hiding her true intentions. The night of February 18, 1993, began like any other in the Robards household. Marie prepared dinner as usual, refried beans, a meal her father enjoyed. She saw an opportunity and took it. Carefully, she mixed the stolen barium acetate into her father's portion. The poison dissolved without a trace, odorless and tasteless, leaving Steven none the wiser. After eating, Steven attended a nearby church service, but upon returning, he complained of severe stomach pain. His condition worsened rapidly, uncontrollable vomiting, muscle stiffness, and difficulty swallowing. Marie went to a neighbor, Hudgens' apartment, and told her that Steven wasn't feeling well. While Marie stayed in Hudgens' apartment, listening to the radio with Hudgens' young son, Hudgens rushed over to find Steven in bed, complaining that he was getting stiff in his arms and legs. He said he couldn't swallow well, Hudgens recalled. Paramedics were called but were unable to save him. They tried to get an oxygen tube down his throat to keep him alive, but his throat was completely closed. Marie came back to the apartment and stood in the doorway silently, watching as her father's body succumbed to the poison. She didn't tell the paramedics anything. She only stood there. Hudgens hugged Marie and pushed Marie's face into her shoulder so that Marie wouldn't see her father die. Later that night, Beth, Marie's mother, came to the hospital to take Marie to her home in Granbury. Steven passed away that night in his home. His death, while tragic, raised no immediate red flags. When medical professionals reviewed his case, the symptoms aligned with what might be expected in a heart attack, especially given the sudden onset. Without an autopsy, the true cause of his death went undetected, and the case was closed. Marie's ability to mask her involvement in the crime was remarkable. She returned to her life as if nothing had happened, maintaining her grades and social ties. The secret of what she had done was hers alone, for a while. In 1994, over a year after her father's death, Marie Robards transferred to a new high school in Weatherford, Texas. There, she formed a close friendship with Stacy High, a fellow student who shared her academic interests. Their bond deepened over time, leading to candid conversations about personal experiences and literature. One day, during a discussion about Shakespeare's Hamlet, as Stacy dramatically read Claudia's soliloquy about guilt and repentance, Marie became visibly emotional. She turned pale, her hands trembling. The play's themes of guilt and familial betrayal seemed to resonate deeply with her. "Do you think people can go through life without a conscience?" she asked. Stacy, confused, responded, "Well, how about the kind of person who can look somebody in the eye and kill him in cold blood?" At that, Marie broke down, collapsing to the floor in tears. "Marie, what's the matter?" asked Stacy. "Guess," Marie whispered. Stacy thought of the worst predicament that she could imagine a fellow 17-year-old girl could be in. "Oh my God, are you pregnant?" "No," Marie answered. "You wrecked your grandparents' car?" Marie shook her head, "No." Almost jokingly, Stacy asked, "Well, you didn't kill somebody, did you?" Unable to contain her emotions, Marie confided in Stacy, revealing a dark secret she had kept hidden. Through tears, Marie confessed, "My father. I poisoned him." She went on to explain how she had stolen barium acetate from her high school chemistry class and laced her father's meal with the lethal substance. Stacy was stunned by the revelation, struggling to comprehend the gravity of her friend's confession. For several weeks, Stacy grappled with the moral dilemma of keeping Marie's secret versus the obligation to report such a serious crime. The weight of the information became too much to bear, leading Stacy to confide in a school counselor. The counselor, recognizing the severity of the situation, promptly contacted law enforcement, setting the stage for the reopening of the investigation into Steven Robards' death. Upon receiving the new information, authorities exhumed Steven Robards' body to conduct a thorough autopsy. Advanced toxicology tests revealed the presence of barium acetate, confirming that his death was not due to natural causes but was, in fact, a homicide. Marie was subsequently arrested and charged with her father's murder. During police interviews, she initially claimed that she had intended only to make her father ill, not to kill him. However, the premeditated nature of her actions, including the theft of the poison and the deliberate administration of a lethal dose, contradicted her assertions. The community was shocked by the revelation that a seemingly bright and promising young woman could commit such a heinous act. The case garnered significant media attention, with many questioning how a teenager could harbor such dark intentions and carry out a plan to murder her own father. In 1995, Marie Robards faced trial for the murder of her father, Steven Robards. The prosecution presented a clear timeline of events, supported by key evidence: Marie's theft of barium acetate from her chemistry lab, her confession to Stacy High, and toxicology reports confirming the poison in Steven's system. The courtroom was packed daily, with people craning their necks to glimpse the young woman at the center of this shocking case. Marie, now 19, sat with a composed but sorrowful demeanor. Her short bob haircut and modest clothing contrasted with the gravity of the charges against her. The prosecution described Marie as calculating and manipulative, someone who had coldly orchestrated her father's death to achieve her goal of living with her mother. They argued that her theft of poison and her deliberate actions proved intent. Defense attorneys countered this narrative, portraying Marie as a desperate teenager who acted impulsively, never intending to kill her father. Emotional testimonies highlighted the tension in the courtroom. Stacy High, dressed in a simple green dress, nervously recounted the night Marie confided in her during their Hamlet study session. Her voice cracked as she described Marie's collapse and the shocking revelation of patricide. At one point, Stacy locked eyes with Marie, only to see her old friend lower her head in shame. Forensic experts painted a grim picture of Steven's final moments, explaining the excruciating effects of barium acetate on the human body. Their descriptions left many in the audience visibly shaken, emphasizing the suffering Steven endured. Marie herself took the stand, her voice trembling as she expressed regret. "I loved my dad very much," she said through tears. "I never meant for him to die. I just wanted to be with my mom." She apologized to her father's family, her face red with emotion. Adding to the drama, Marie's grandfather, Jim Robards, pleaded for leniency, calling for forgiveness. His testimony brought a moment of quiet reflection to the courtroom, contrasting with the prosecutor's harsh portrayal of Marie as society's worst nightmare. The trial concluded with impassioned closing arguments. The prosecution described the crime as premeditated, with Marie fully aware of the consequences. They urged the jury to impose a harsh sentence. The defense asked for mercy, arguing that Marie's actions stemmed from emotional distress, not malice. After deliberations, the jury found Marie guilty of murder. Her sentencing left the courtroom in a stunned silence, 27 years in prison. The judge emphasized the gravity of her crime but acknowledged her youth and potential for rehabilitation. As the verdict was read, Marie wept, her composure finally breaking. Her mother, Beth, embraced her, whispering words of comfort. Members of Steven's family looked on, their faces a mixture of sadness and anger. The murder of Steven Robards by his daughter Marie became a headline-grabbing story in the mid-1990s. Media outlets across the country focused on the shocking betrayal at the heart of the crime, a teenager poisoning her father to pursue her own desires. The case's unsettling nature drew significant attention, with many debating the deeper issues it raised. One reason the story stood out was Marie's profile, a bright, well-behaved high school student who appeared to have a promising future. Many questioned how someone so intelligent and outwardly normal could commit such a cold and calculated act. News reports often highlighted this dichotomy, emphasizing how appearances can mask deeper emotional turmoil. The media also amplified discussions about juvenile crime. At a time when societal concern about youth violence was increasing, Marie's case became a focal point. Public opinion was sharply divided. Some viewed her as a manipulative individual who exploited her intelligence to commit murder. Others saw her as a troubled teenager, driven by emotional instability and desperation. In 2003, after serving 8 years of her 27-year sentence, Marie Robards was granted parole. Her release was a quieter affair, largely overshadowed by newer headlines. To avoid public scrutiny, she adopted a new identity, effectively disappearing from the public eye. While her exact whereabouts remain unknown, speculation about her post-prison life continues. Some reports suggest she may have sought anonymity in a small community, while others theorize she pursued higher education or a professional career. The lack of confirmed details adds an air of mystery to her story. What is clear, however, is that Marie's case left a mark on the criminal justice system and public consciousness. It continues to be discussed in true crime circles and psychological studies exploring the motivations behind juvenile crimes. Marie Robards' case raises unsettling questions about family dynamics and the pressures faced by young people. What drives a child to view a parent as an obstacle so insurmountable that they resort to murder? This crime highlighted the potential for hidden struggles within seemingly ordinary families. The case also fueled debates about how the justice system handles juvenile offenders. Should a teenager be held to the same standard of accountability as an adult when committing a premeditated crime? While Marie was tried as an adult, her age and background influenced public perception of the severity of her punishment. Additionally, this story set a precedent for examining psychological factors in juvenile crimes. Experts pointed to the impact of her parents' divorce, feelings of isolation, and a strained father-daughter relationship as potential catalysts for her actions. These discussions have influenced approaches to similar cases, emphasizing the need for early intervention in troubled family situations. Ultimately, the legacy of this case extends beyond the courtroom. It serves as a reminder of the complex interplay between individual choices, familial relationships, and societal influences. Marie Robards' story continues to provoke thought about trust, betrayal, and the fragility of human connections. The tragic murder of Steven Robards shows how trust and family bonds can sometimes shatter in the most unimaginable ways. His untimely death, orchestrated by his own daughter, raises questions that society continues to grapple with, about the influences of upbringing, the impact of emotional struggles, and the nature of justice. Marie Robards' story is not just one of crime, but of profound loss and the far-reaching consequences of a single, devastating choice. While she served her time and moved on with her life, the ripple effects of her actions remain unforgettable, a haunting reminder of the fragility of human connections. The case is a powerful example of how one act can alter countless lives forever, leaving behind a legacy of pain, reflection, and unanswered questions. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more real-life crime stories.